Welcome back, everybody, to Cool's Reviews, and it's one of our special deep dive episodes. Unlike our first three episodes, the one where we did Young Guns, or we did Whiplash, or we did National Treasure, we're doing something completely different. Now, this was
National Treasure
recommended,
2.
yeah, National Treasure 2, without Robert, our 32nd degree Freemason, which was the whole reason we did that episode.
Right.
No, we're actually doing a fan made film. That's the first time I think we reviewed a fan made film ever, old channel or new channel. This was recommended or at least suggested by somebody on this chat. I won't say who. I won't say who, but somebody's. And that one is Spider Man Lotus. It's a very controversial film that yeah, we'll get to. We have some special guests joining us. It's not just me and Sam. We have our buddy Nick here. Nick, do you want to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Hi, my name is Nick. I am a guy. I'm here. I was asked to be here. I work with Keegan, and he knows I'm a fan of Spider-Man. So
He was
Nick,
asked.
Nick, is it true you made a whole guitar song at work today about Spider-Man Lotus?
it's not true.
No, it was just
I
me
did
writing
not
you
write a whole
emails.
song. I can't write. I can't write songs about certain themes like that. I am very much. I mean, you've seen my black skinny jeans. I am very much a sad emo boy when it comes to writing music.
Hey, it's gotten lots of people money. Below Nick, at least on my screen, we see somebody that, hey, if you've kept up with the channel, you will know him from a very exciting, definitely should have been 2 day long trip to South Dakota. Grayson, how are you doing?
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Now, Grayson, I can't help but to see a garbage dumpster on fire. Does this
I would
have
say
anything to reference to?
not at all, Keegan. Not one bit. No, it might be a message, might not be. We'll just have to find out. But hey, just thought I'd set the tone pretty early on. So
Right. Well, I will say, going into this movie, I didn't have a lot of expectations for Alfred Molina, his portrayal of Doc Ock, but oh wait, we're not talking about Spider-Man 2. Yeah,
We're not talking about a legitimate Spider-Man. Okay. This is a fan-made film, no association to Marvel or Sony or anybody whatsoever.
yeah, and they make sure to tell that. I think that's more for copyright reasons. At the
Obviously.
end, have you guys watched any fan-made films? Nick, we'll start with you.
I mean, the only other fan-made project outside of like abridged stuff, like abridged anime stuff that my friends have shown me on YouTube. I did watch the that Dragon Ball fan-made animation that came out a little while back. I watched that. I try to stay away from fan-made stuff though, because a lot of fan-made stuff can be very one-track minded. Like this is what the fans like. I speak for all the fans. Like you don't speak for me. Like I speak for myself. You do your thing. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, whatever. But I try to stay away from fan-made stuff.
Yeah, I think personally for myself, I've only seen. I know there's that Power Rangers one that was like rated R, and then there was the Godzilla Megalon one that they just came out with.
A rated R Power Rangers?
Have you not seen that one? Obviously
No.
not. You didn't. You
It's a
didn't.
it's a children's show. Why'd you need to make it gritty?
I'll send it to you and you let me know. Grayson, same
All right,
question
we have
with
our
you.
we have our topic for next episode.
I can't say I've gone out of my way to watch too many. I would say definitely watch some of the abridged stuff on YouTube back in the day. But the last like fan made film that I've gone out of my way to watch was probably the Vader one with Star Wars Theory. But that was probably the last one, and that was relatively decent. It was a good look at somebody trying to do something different in a hypothetical. What if Vader was hunting down Mace Windu, all that fun stuff. But I feel like it was too short lived. I haven't really gone back to see if he's done more work on it, but for what it wasn't too bad.
Now, before we get too far into this, I know you and I and some others were discussing a DC universe at one point. that we wanted to create.
It's true. It's true.
But do you think it was done? Our vision? Do you think it would have ended up in this vein?
Honestly, I would say it depends on if we were able to keep a outside perspective when the dude who not only wrote the movie also directed it, produced it, and did everything else with it. It was kind of one dude's vision. So I think when it got to the point where it was just him thinking that what he was writing was the best of the best, that was the downfall of this entire movie. Because it was just like, hey, what if we made, in my opinion, it was just, hey, what if I just made Spider-Man mad at everything? And I feel like we could have probably done something different because we would have had multiple perspectives on it.
Are you saying they had Zack Snyder write Spider-Man in this one?
It would have been decent if Zack Snyder actually made this.
I couldn't help but just see him brooding, especially the scene on the Brooklyn Bridge, and just think it was straight out of a Batman film.
I legit thought that's where the film was gonna end. Like I thought he was just gonna straight up unalive himself right there, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a dark Spider-Man."
I thought Mary Jane was gonna unalive herself at one point.
At so many points, do so many people think about unaliving because there's that bridge. There's like three. Well, I guess technically all 5 characters did go there at one point in this film.
That is very astute observation there. Something I did not write down. But that was in their little homemade film that they watched. Now, I do have some hot takes about this film.
All right, let's hear them.
I'll tell you at the end. I don't want to ruin your guys' viewpoint.
No, I want you to just. You have been talking about this all day at work. Just get it out in the open. Let's discuss.
Okay. Having subjected myself to 6 of the worst films I've ever had to watch in the Chad Kalick documentary series, this is better than that. It's also better than Titanic 2, Monster by Asylum, maybe even the Blair Witch Project.
He didn't say his favorite one, so it's his favorite one's better than this.
But what's my favorite one?
Sharks with the Corn.
I forgot I watched Sharks with the Corn. That was such a bad movie. That was super low budget. Like they couldn't even make a real sign. Their sign for their town was just a little floppy sign you could buy at King Soopers. Yeah.
Sharks of the Corn. That sounds so familiar.
I mean, because there's children at the corn.
No, it's not the film I'm thinking of. My ex-wife has a cousin who starred in a film that was low budget, straight to DVD, and it was very similar. I think you and I have discussed that at work. It's a very similar premise where these people go to like this out in the middle of nowhere, and then there's these like dirt sharks or whatever that come around eating everybody.
Trevor?
And my ex's cousin has the one small part in the film where guys sitting there like, "Don't worry, babe, you're gonna be safe with me." And she's like, "Don't worry, I know." And then she gets killed immediately by like one of the dirt sharks.
So hey guys, if you're watching this and have not seen Spider-Man Lotus, you at least know your expectation. Better than some of the worst films of all time.
I disagree with you on the Blair Witch Project.
Really, I dislike the Blair Witch. That's personal.
I understand. I'm not the biggest fan either, but I do appreciate what it did for cinema at the time. It kind of paved the way for that found footage, which a lot of films overdid, but it paved the way for that kind of aspect.
We'll see. This could set up a very, fan film universe. We could have a very like depressed Superman just moping.
depressed, idiotic, emo superhero cinematic universe.
Keegan, to your point, I honestly thought that this was definitely, if Hallmark made a Spider-Man movie and upped up the depression to a factor of 1,000,000. It was just the melodramatic, oh my God, I don't know if I should be Spider-Man. This is ridiculous. And just the overabundance of just fake rage was just so bad. It was hard to sit through the entire time.
Like, Do you think this is a CW style show?
Oh, 100%. It
Yeah.
gave off like Riverdale Flash season 6 like vibes to it. It was rough. It was rough out there.
Right. Yeah. So let's get into the film. It starts with a very noticeably CGI car speeding down the road.
Not
Now,
only a car, it's like that whole
the
scene
the
is
whole scene.
CGI'd.
Yeah, it looks straight out of a PS2. But hey, it's a fan film. I can't be too hard on there. They did stick in a license plate number, TASM 46, which is the Shocker when Shocker first appears. I'm pretty sure because then, very noticeably, it's not a very similar designed car when it's real. And they get out, and that's when we first meet Warden Wayne's Peter Parker, Spider Man. Nick, as a bigger Spider Man fan than I, how did you take this?
I think you're forgetting the swinging part of like the swinging scene for him. Like he does come in swinging. Um, as a Spider-Man fan, I did like some of the visuals for him swinging into the action. I did kind of enjoy the Spider-Man costume. It's very accurate and reminiscent of the comics. Uh, Peter's, I think the banter between Shocker and Spider-Man in that scene just kind of subpar. I felt like it was trying too hard to be Spider-Man versus just act naturally being that. But
Yeah,
yeah, other than that, what you said was completely accurate. It's a CGI scene. The car looks almost cartoony, and then it kind of just yeah.
yeah, no, the swinging scene definitely. I think isn't that the one where he like comes right in front of the camera? It looks really pretty good.
Yeah, it was the part where he comes right through the fire escape, I think.
Yeah, it looks really actually considering the budget, pretty good. Maybe not Godzilla -1 budget, but Grayson, how do you feel about the opening?
I will say, I agree. To be honest with you, the CGI was for a fan film. It was really good. I was honestly like impressed to see that quality was on there. Obviously, with a fan film, you got to give it some leeway, especially with the continuity issues. But um, honestly, not bad. When I saw the costumes, I was very much the Shocker costume was really cool in my opinion. I thought it looked, at least halfway decent, all but very CW show vibes, but it looked presentable. Um, but you can kind of see Spider-Man's faceplate through the costume what they tried to set up. Plus, when they decided not to dub over Peter Parker's lines and have him use the mask audio, so all we hear is the entire time was a very interesting choice to say the least. But it started off. I had good feelings going into it because of it.
Yeah, I will say I did pick up on the audio because it's pretty much just Peter. Even Green Goblin's audio sounds crisper. So I don't know why they made that choice. Sam, as someone that doesn't watch a lot of superhero films, how did you feel?
I mean, if we're just doing the opening scene, like I thought it was gonna be kind of like that, kind of like towards the end of PlayStation 2, like you said, and like kind of style of movie. So I was just like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. And then when it switched to live action, I like almost questioned it. I was just like, wait, this doesn't look like animated anymore. Is it still animated, or am I just messing with me? But I did find out that it was like gonna switch back and forth, obviously, with like the swinging and other things. But I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad. It seemed like most Marvel movies to me, honestly. I was just like, it's not bad. Obviously, the noticeable like CGI was a little bit, not a little bit, like definitely under par, but like the beginning part kind of seemed like most superhero type of movies.
Now, Nick, going into Warden Wayne, as Peter Parker, do you think he even looks like Peter Parker?
I mean, there have been so many different artists who have tackled Peter Parker. I don't really, in my mind, I don't really care if the character looks like a particular version of Peter Parker. A lot of what passes for Peter Parker now in cinema is just that white male, brown hair, and that's it. Kind of quirky, but that's more of a personality thing. But I mean, it doesn't. For me, it didn't really matter too much about how he looked. But I mean, I did just click those two pieces together about the fact that yeah, you only hear only Spider-Man muffled in the movie. Everyone else is perfectly crisp, but that's an odd choice. I will say I think no, actually I'll save that for more discussion.
Okay. Grayson, how about you? How did Warden Wayne come off as Peter Parker, at least by looks?
I feel like he was decent. I feel like they definitely the looks. Yeah, look wise, it was very much Peter Parker. I think yeah, it's hard to really get Peter Parker wrong, just because obviously, as Nick brought out, it's white dude, brown hairs, brown eyes, pretty much said and done. You can toss a stone out and hit 15 people that look like Peter Parker in the comics.
All right. So this is the part of the film where we meet pretty much our four other main characters. Harry Osborn, Mary Jane Watson, and Gwen Stacy, who might be my favorite character, also only in the movie for like 3 minutes. So perhaps that's why. I don't know. I feel bad for you, Tuin, pal, for being in this movie. I have heard that you and Mariah were trash talked, so I'm sorry about that. But off the basic introduction of these characters, how do you think they worked, Nick, as who they were supposed to be? Just in this scene, before we get to Peter Parker being an asshole at a cemetery.
So the introduction of the other characters kind of reminded me of the 2003 animated show that was on MTV because Peter comes in from having saved the day. Sam, I know you don't know what I'm talking about. I get it. So Peter comes into that scene after having done Spider-Man stuff, which is reminiscent of the character. It is the quintessential of what the character does. He saves the day and misses out on his social life. I mean, it was very much what you would expect from any actual comic.
Just how do you feel about these four main characters and who they're supposed to be?
I feel like the initial introduction of Peter Parker, after him doing Spider-Man stuff, I don't feel like it was very Peter Parker-ish, because when like Gwen's mad at him for showing up late, it's like he has Harry go talk to her. I don't think Peter would have done that. He would have tried to smooth things over with Gwen, at least, doing the whole I'm trying to tell you the truth without telling you the full truth, that whole thing. But for the most part, the side characters were fine. Mary Jane was pretty on par at that point, and then so was Gwen Stacy. I feel like, I don't know the comics all that well about that characterization except for Mary Jane, but yeah, for the most part, I felt like it fit.
Sam, did the characters give you warm, fuzzy feelings when they first appeared in this scene?
I'm not sure about warm, fuzzy feelings, but like I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the other gentleman looked like he had like chew in his mouth the whole time, or was
The
just like
guy.
purposely sticking his chin out.
Are you talking about Lithby Harry?
Yeah, like I was just like, dude, does this guy have just like is just like like have chewing tobacco in his mouth? Because like it has like I don't know, there was like some weird. It was like a bulge, or like he was like sticking his like chin out like a lot. Which I was like, maybe that's how he is portraying it, but like it was just interesting. But no, I thought when they were all introduced, it kind of made sense. And I didn't talk about this before, so I'm going to kind of bring back a little bit. I think the whole thing of talking through the mask is kind of interesting because, like, that's how it would be if you actually came across him. It would be pretty muffled and you wouldn't really be able to hear him like anybody that wears like masks. Like, it's not going to be pristine or like crispy. It's going to be like a little muffled. So I thought that was kind of cool because it's more realistic than being like super clean. Because talking
I
through a
see what
mask, you're not going to hear people like perfectly. It's going to be like all weird and janky like that.
I agree with your point, but also at the same time, they very clearly used like another faceplate underneath the mask, which I understand you wanted to look exactly like that. Like all the Spider-Man movies have used that, but if you're going out, like, I feel like if Spider-Man was real, it wouldn't be, oh, let's put a piece of plastic over my face in my mask versus like let's do our thing. But I will take it back as well because I wanted to say that I think the intro scene of Spider-Man fighting the Shocker is a completely different tone from the rest of the film. Like it felt like it was gonna be like kind of rompy and kind of campy at the beginning, and then it just goes downhill immediately.
Would you have enjoyed it more if it stayed that tone?
Yeah, I think I would have. I mean, I think the biggest problem of this film was, it's. I understand the subject matter is dark, but it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not usually a brooding kind of character. He's not Batman. He's
I
always
was gonna
been.
say he's not Rorschach. I was getting some Rorschach vibes from this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, had it stayed on that kind of rompy, campy kind of feel, I think the movie would have turned out better. But yeah, no, just not.
Well, and then we get our kind of title card after Peter doesn't ask Gwen to marry him, which would have seemed like a weird time anyways. Like, hey, I was just late, but I'm going to marry you. Now he could have, like Grayson said, smoothed over the situation. He didn't. He just tiptoed around it and then heard some fire sirens. Movie starts. We find out Gwen Stacy is dead, and thus begins our dive into asshole Spider-Man, as we're going to call him.
We get our title screen like 22 minutes into the film. That bothered me so much. I was like, wait, what?
Well, just my takeaway too was Spider-Man 2, because that's what they were going for. It looked like, which can
Yeah.
be fine, but a lot of the stuff they talk about they show later in the film. So did we need like a 10-minute introduction scene right now?
I mean, I saw this film as like a behind the scenes type of Spider-Man, like what you don't see, what they wouldn't put in cinemas. Is more what I got the vibe from this.
Now I got the idea. We can get $100,000 and make the comic accurate version of Superman, where he forces Jimmy Olsen and Aquaman to dry up on a beach because only one can have the power of Aquaman. And that's the Superman I need to see on screen.
Listen, we're
I
gonna
don't
do
know how I
this.
feel about this.
We're gonna get $100,000, and we're gonna make Spider-Man goes on his first date, and it's awkward as hell. And guess what? We're gonna push the bar. We're gonna go for 3 hours, not 2. We're not stopping at 2. Title card, hour and a half into the movie.
And that's when you know it's
Just
a good
place it
movie.
right after they order the main course.
I'll be right back, gents.
Just name the film after where he takes her for the first date. Spider-Man Red Robin.
Spider-Man Olive Garden. When you're here, your family is the tagline.
Your family's the tagline. No, we can't do that because that breaks the fourth wall. That feels more Deadpool-y.
I mean, who's to say he doesn't make a cameo?
Yeah, maybe Deadpool's the one narrating our fan film.
Deadpool comes in like, really? You guys are watching this instead of my movie?
See, we could literally just have that, and I think we would be making money hand over fist. But that's
Yeah, and I think as teenage Peter Parker, we're gonna cast Nicolas Cage.
I was thinking Tom Hanks.
wow. But Nick, I honestly agree with you. When it started out, thought the camp was really good. I thought it was going to be like, they were going to like take it somewhat seriously, but not as seriously as they did. I thought it would be like a good, solid look at like Peter, like pretty much the Insomniac game, but hopefully better written dialogue. But when it nosedived into, I don't want to jump ahead, Keegan, or anything, but when he basically met, are you going to like lead into the graveyard scene, or do you want me to hold off on that because I can wait?
Oh, we can go into it. I'm fine if you want to talk about that.
Okay, because the first thing is when he meets Mary Jane and he's just being a total dick for no reason. It's like, what did we just do? What just happened? Because this is not at all what I was expecting, and this is not Peter Parker. This is some just edgelord trying to be a douche right now.
Well, one thing that didn't help that scenario either was the fact that we got all the exposition on what happened to cause that scene in the title cards. Like it would have been it would have had so much more gravitas and so much more impact on the viewer had you seen the actual death of Gwen Stacy and had you seen the actual fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin versus just seeing like just stills of it or like little flashes to it.
Honestly, I thought the same thing when they honestly could have cut down on him talking to that kid that's dying and replaced it with that. They could have shortened that scene by like 10 minutes and done the intro of this is what happened. At least show the clips of him trying to save her and then what happened. But, you know, it is what it is. But let me ask you guys this just on that subject. Did they ever specify like how long it had been since Gwen died? Because it felt like it was a few months after the fact, not
No,
like,
they didn't really specify. There was no like actual specification like 3 weeks later. For me, it felt like just a couple weeks after the events.
Yeah, because I think Mary Jane says Harry's been missing for weeks or hasn't heard. So we don't know. It's
Yeah,
unspecified.
I think that's
But they had enough time to make a headstone and carve it and age it 80 years. So
that's what I'm kind of like. It felt like anywhere between 2 weeks to about 6 months, but there was nothing specified. Because all of a sudden, I honestly kind of started like drifting off near the end and not paying attention to it. But I know Flash was in a military uniform, right? What was like Flash Thompson going to do
going to
again?
be in military, yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like if they just got out of high school or college or whatever it was they were doing, it feels like it was some amount of time that wasn't specified and wasn't really, you know, made clear in why Peter's still brooding over this. Because it's like if it was still fresh, you could give him some leeway, but it felt months after this. And if he's still this tender about Gwen dying, which everybody agrees is a different process, but I don't think he'd be this much of a jerk about anything to anyone, least of all, you know, Mary Jane or Harry. But that's just
well.
me.
And then going off that point too, knowing the character, like you mentioned earlier, the Insomniac game. The character in the Insomniac game, he has like in the Insomniac titles, he has tragedies and all that stuff that happens, but he still very much has the wherewithal to know that he has to still be Spider-Man. He has to not let this stuff affect him so much personally. And we do know in this film, because of the talk with the little kid who's terminally ill, that he has been Spider-Man for at least 5 years. So he has in those 5 years he should have seen a lot of things come and go, especially tragedies.
Absolutely. Like if I was going to make an analogy of this to anything, it felt like Batman Year One, but they're trying to like tell like a first year story. But if he's been in the field for 5 years, plus seeing Uncle Ben die, I'm assuming anyway, because it feels like they're going off of a very by the book, run of the mill Peter Parker with it, and it feels like he's still like a high schooler who's grieving when it comes down to it.
So what you're saying is kind of timeline wise, it's very much like Robert Pattinson's The Batman as far as timeline.
I would say so. It feels like there. What could have helped this script out a lot is if there was more, at least, flow to it. It feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too by making a melodrama, but writing things in it that make it nonsensical in a way.
Yeah, I will say one of my first hints that something might not be good in this film was the cemetery scene. Not just the fact that he's like yelling at her, kind of, and I get it, you're grieving, but he's like going really hard on her. At the same time, she's like, Harry's gone, no one wants to date me. I'm like, what kind of line is that? Who wrote this garbage?
Oh, the dialogue in this movie is absolute dog trash.
Just horrible. Just so bad.
I was
There
like,
was so
well, maybe
there
no
was-
wonder he's mad at you. You're at his girlfriend's grave. No one's gonna date me now.
Yeah, that's not how you approach that. Even that's not how a normal person would approach that in that scenario. Anyway, there were so many times throughout this film where I was like, "That's not how you would phrase that at all."
Absolutely. On that subject, it honestly felt like the writer, director, producer extraordinaire that made the movie was very much using Spider-Man to air out some personal grievances. It felt like
At the actress.
the actress, just his life in general. I feel like he was using Spider-Man to project a lot of stuff onto a lot of people for no reason, especially Mary Jane, and like it seemed very just aggressive towards Mary Jane, and almost felt like that was pretty much it.
Yeah, like she was his punching bag in a way.
Absolutely.
Which
There was
then
one-
they're like, Flash is like, I've seen you giving eyes to Peter Parker. I'm like, why? Well, why would you like this guy that's just like beating you up verbally the entire movie?
I can fix him.
I was just gonna say that too. I can fix him.
He doesn't mean it.
No, if they're mean to you, it means they like you. No, that's not
Right.
that's not it at all.
I did make a note too with the cemetery scene. Outside of the headstones clearly being far older than what they were supposed to be, when they are close up, they didn't blur out the W right next to Peter Parker that starts the name. So very clearly it was not Gwen Stacy's grave. I shouldn't be this hard, but at some
I will
point,
say one thing. The one thing that I really focused on for that scene was because of that. I can't remember the creator's name, but that YouTube video you sent me breaking down this film, I couldn't help but notice the one commentary he had mentioned about how they took a broad daylight scene and then dimmed the brightness on the editing for it. Like even right now, this is nighttime. We're using lights indoors, but we're still brighter now than they were in the broad daylight scene.
because it's gritty. It's gritty and real, man.
To who? To who? That's all I have to say. That
To
was
Warden Wayne, right? Is that his
Listen,
name?
is this what the MCU is missing? Apparently, is this the MCU is not getting right about Peter Parker and Spider-Man? They need to be darker and more brooding.
and sprinkling a little bit of abusive misogyny. I think that's definitely what we need to do.
He not only does this to Mary Jane, but then he flips out on Harry, who's just gotten back. Looks like he's trying to OD on pills. Like Harry's just like pill popping in his like apartment that he apparently has rented to Peter. And he's like, "Why weren't you at the funeral, man? But she died." And then he was just like, "My dad died." And I was like, "Yeah, Peter's a dick."
Yeah,
How do you
that
forget
was
that?
one thing. That was one thing. Even I, as a Spider-Man fan, I was like, I never like. I didn't think about that until that moment, and then I was like, he could have delivered that with more oomph. The actor, like, my dad just died, dude. Get off my back.
But how do you feel about that scene? Because I know we were talking about it a little bit at work.
Honestly, I think the actor for Harry did good job in that scene. It was a good performance from him because I mean he could have delivered, like I said, he could have delivered it with more oomph, but for what he did, knowing that the character was kind of disassociated or like high off of drugs or whatever, he did kind of. He's like, dude, my dad just died. Okay, he's like, that's why I wasn't there. But again, it's just Peter Parker being kind of selfish, like. Even he said it, and even like Peter Parker didn't even take that into consideration. When like if you look at the Sam Raimi films, that's like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker thinks about that constantly when he sees Harry. He's like, I want to tell you the truth about how your dad died, but I can't. Versus this movie where he's like, dude, why didn't you go to my girlfriend's? Why didn't you go to my girlfriend's funeral? She's clearly more important.
To that point, Nick, I would have like if this. I was just thinking about this too, and I kind of thought about it after I saw the movie. If this was him, like for instance, while having the symbiote suit on, that would make more sense. But this isn't. We brought it up multiple times at this point, but the fact that it's not Peter Parker. This is just some dude who is using Peter, or like it just is angry vitriol for no reason. It doesn't make any sense, especially for the character of Peter Parker.
Sam, what do you have to add as far as him just ranting at his friends?
I don't know. It's typical like high school kind of movie type of thing. Like it's childish. They're like all not thinking clearly, given whatever scenario they're going through, like through all the scenarios. But like they're all like, I don't know, I'm just dealing it with it in their own fucking weird ass ways.
I
So-
thought for a second there you were just gonna leave your answer as
I thought about it.
and just left
I
it
don't
there.
Right.
No.
That's why I laughed.
No, I wrote a note here because I'm just reading over my notes. One says, I think it's not too bad, ... But I just checked my phone. It's only been 5 minutes. So
Really?
There-
Is that only 5 minutes in? No.
no, just whatever note I was reading. Apparently, it had only been 5 minutes since the last time I checked what time it was.
Oh.
One part I think we touched on this at work today. The one my biggest pet peeve of that scene was how it went into a 3-minute long music video. I was like, did you really need to play the entirety of that song and then just follow Harry around being sad the entire time?
That's what we got to do. Remember, we got to film this with Superman. He's very guilt-ridden because he just killed Aquaman, man. He dried him up on the beach. Jimmy Olsen's the new Aquaman. This is filmmaking.
No.
If I ever say that,
no,
just
it's
take
not.
me out behind the shed.
It's not filmmaking.
At this point is one of the first times, because there's a lot of establishing shots that go on for far too long. But there's right after this is when it goes on for very noticeably too long because it's focused on the World Trade Center for like 4 minutes. Like my hotel was right next to the World Trade Center, and I think I saw more World Trade Center in this film about Spider-Man. Like, and I was just like, all right, cut, and then we cut. It's to an apartment building for another couple minutes.
The establishing shots in this movie are too long.
In case you weren't sad enough, we're gonna make you more sad by focusing on the World Trade Center. It's like, I honestly thought this movie could easily be an hour and 40 minutes if they would have cut down so much. There's at least 20 minutes, if not more, that could have just been nixed without causing any issues with the story that weren't already there.
Like
Yeah.
the full 3-minute music video that I just got done mentioning. You didn't need to throw that shit in.
Wait, you don't need to see Harry contemplating going back on a bender? What?
Going back on a bender and then going to the one bridge that every character visited.
I feel like because you can actually just walk there and film and no one cares is why they use the Brooklyn Bridge. Hey, I've seen TikTokers filming just fake little shorts on the Brooklyn Bridge.
I get it. I have too.
Yeah. No, but
I kind of want to move to New York just to see how many of those TikToks I can film.
we got to go to New York just to see where they filmed this beautiful movie. Scene by scene.
You take back that one word. You take back that this is a movie. Let's take back that one word, okay?
I might have stumbled, might have had something to drink before I said that word.
That would explain it. This movie is the 2 out of 10 that if you drink it goes like a 4 out of 10. It's me.
I have a hot take about ratings, but we'll get there. No, but I will say in their fairness, their establishing shots were at least 4 minutes shorter than Chad Kalix in Two-Face the Gray. So good on you for being better than one of the worst films I've ever seen. But this leads us to
you for being better than one of the words.
But this leads to another kind of strange character moment, and that's Mary Jane just smoking on top of the building, and then Flash comes out.
You
And
mean
I
attempting to smoke? She never actually smoked.
right,
There was an attempt there. It never got lit.
acting. But I actually didn't know who it was, and I thought they said Rush, and I was like, okay, I don't know who that is. And then they said Flash. I'm like, there's no way that's Flash. That guy looks smaller than Peter Parker, and he's supposed to be beating him up. Like,
Yeah, that dude looks like he was 130 pounds wet.
and he was in love with Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, I should say. Very not what I imagined. Like what was his name? Manganiello?
Close enough.
Yeah,
It's Manganiello, but
there we go. You got to help me out there. At least he looked like he could beat up Tobey Maguire. He almost did too. The cast offered him some money.
I was
They
about to
said,
say,
"Hey, $100 if you actually clock Tobey Maguire in the face in the scene."
I will say, this Spider-Man was written like Tobey Maguire is in real life. That's kind of interesting to me.
So you're saying they just hung around Tobey Maguire and they're like,
I think
Their inspiration for the film was all the Bully Maguire YouTube shorts you see, and constantly looking yourself in a mirror, and be like, "I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye."
so this is the party. I forgot to at the cemetery. Peter's grieving, moping, being an asshole at the cemetery. And she's like, come to the party with me. You just why? This doesn't feel like real character, like real
Again-
human beings would ask.
Again, the dialogue in this movie just does not make sense in most scenarios.
And then I think it's around this point she tries to, or no, she's already given the letters. Yeah, this movie's all over in my head. Spider-Man goes to this kid's house. It's a very famous comic, right? In the comic, we don't know he's been diagnosed, as in this movie claims, diagnosed terminally ill. Not with a sickness, just terminally ill.
Not a real diagnosis.
Yeah. So
you got the death. Sorry, kid.
you're terminally ill.
You're dying.
With what?
From what?
You're just dying.
You're just dying.
You know how we all die eventually? Well,
Don't they teach you this
yours
stuff
is
in
coming
school?
soon.
Some sooner than others. I can
With
just think
possibly
of
the
whitest
best-
kids you know sketch.
Yeah.
Congratulations, kid, you got AIDS. Here's a lollipop.
I was thinking of the LA Turtle YouTube video. Your moves are weak or whatever. Like, your moves are weak, babe. No, you guys don't know that.
I don't
Alright, I
think
guess
I've
I'm
seen
the
that one.
weirdo here. I'll send it to you. It's fine.
I might know that. Kind of sounds familiar, but I don't actually know.
Oh, and then so getting back to topics since we've gone a little off. We meet Timmy. He's terminally ill. He might be one of the better actors in the movie. The kid that plays him. I think he did a good job. He's very excited to see very awkward Spider-Man in his room. His mom's also very surprised. But then he does just this dump of grief onto this poor dying child.
Hey, kid, you don't got to log anyway, so carry my burden for me.
Yeah, and I was like, well, and then the part that got me about the scene, after he makes this child just have no hope in world, instead of webbing out like he webbed in, he goes through the kitchen for some odd reason. And this is the only way the movie can work is because the mom chastises him in the kitchen. I was like, so what happens had he just webbed out of that window?
Kid would have just gone to bed all sad and stuff.
And then he dies immediately.
The mom just goes to crime scene after crime scene trying to catch Spider-Man to hand him another note to come back and talk to her. Like, I need to talk to you right now. That was inappropriate, is what the note says, but she just keeps missing him by that much. Almost like he's avoiding her on purpose.
Spider-Man Lotus 2, Mom Strikes Back.
Better
You
than
see what just one of the
first one.
cops in Spider-Man thinks he's coming up to congratulate him. He's like, are you Spider-Man? Yeah, you've been served.
every cop in New York has a copy of the letter, and they're like, "All right, guys, we're gonna get him this time."
Oh,
Hey, I gotta talk to you. No, come down here. No, come down here.
I ain't coming down there. What's that letter?
What's that in your hand? No, it's nothing. Just come down here.
Is that from that crazy mom? I didn't know what her son was. It just said terminally ill.
Look, if he didn't want to be depressed, he shouldn't have talked to me. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah,
in that
kid.
in that scene, the whole part of it, the whole thing that I hated was again the trauma dump. It's so far this film has only established one trauma happening to him, when that was Gwen Stacy's death. But
Well,
it
he
establishes
does talk about Uncle Ben in this
okay,
scene.
yeah, Uncle Ben, yes, that is true. That is accurate to the comics. But from what we hear from the kid, there's been so many great moments like, oh, this is from the time you fought so and so. You fought so and so here, and like, oh, here's a video game where you're a character, and like everything is great. Everything's supposed to be great about Spider-Man, but because of that one death in the movie, he's he's just so sad and depressed. I'm like, that's not how you should approach it.
Especially with a poor child that's on his deathbed, quite literally.
Yeah, you're supposed to be there to give him hope, and all you're doing is complaining about how sad your life is. That doesn't feel like a Peter Parker move to me, but okay.
It reminds me of I just remembered this. There was a story in the news a little while ago where this guy who is a Santa had to go to a hospital for a kid that was dying, and he actually gave the kid hope. He's like, you're gonna be one of Santa's best helpers. And now I'm imagining, had that situation turned out differently, like the Santa shows up, like, man, taxes are gonna be rough this year, and then the kid just flatlines.
He's just like, you know what, kid? You just made the naughty list. Yeah.
You know what, kid? Life sucks, then you die.
Yeah. So
But
after Spider-Man has that change of heart, right? He finally does something good in this movie that we see. And he's nice to the kid. The kid has hope, and the kid might be one of the best actors in the film, like I said. But then they show a scene where like the heart monitor and everything was by his bed. I did not see that till that scene. They plug him in and he's like, "Don't go." And then he leaves and immediately the kid flatlines.
I will say, I think going off of that, the kid was a good actor. I think the mom was also a good actress too. She did a good part there. Again, I don't think her dialogue was as strong. Like none of the dialogue in the movie worked for me.
Grayson, what do you have to add about this wonderful scene of ours?
well, I just think the kid dying at the very end is proof you don't meet your heroes, because you just get disappointed.
Grayson, we got to make a
Kids,
short. I'm gonna make a short now of Spider-Man just being an asshole to that kid, and then at the end it's gonna be you. You don't meet your heroes.
the
That's
kid
honestly
was
the only thing that popped into my head, because I'm like, the kid, like, all I can just picture is like some sort of Comedy Central cartoon or something, just being like, you know what, I don't want to live anymore. Spider-Man sucks. Beep.
I was gonna say the real cause of death was the disappointment in meeting his hero.
Right, it's definitely a robot chicken sketch, right?
100%. Just be like, and so, honey, what do you think of meeting Spider-Man? He sucks. Beep. He's kind of lame
So
and pretty nerdy. He also kind of sucks. Boop.
I don't know if it's around this time, but it's my next note. Green Goblin versus Spider-Man, which we'll talk about the design of the Green Goblin costume, the dialogue. I just wrote, I think he took inspiration after watching or reading The Dark Knight Returns, especially the whole "See you in hell" line, which the Joker says after Batman breaks his or kind of paralyzes him and Joker breaks his neck. What were your feelings on this Green Goblin? Do you think he's going to give William Dafoe a run for his money?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the costume with the designed open mouth that doesn't move. That was my favorite. Yeah, like I could see again the costume work was really good, even with the Green Goblin. But I'm like, again, this is just some dude who thinks having a character who is as insane as the Green Goblin is projected to be, because it's definitely Jekyll and Hyde portrayal in Spider-Man. This is he's writing it like he thinks that you have to just be this overly vitriolic dude, but there is a way to make somebody nuanced in dialogue. All the dialogue is just, I'm upset, you're angry, I'm gonna make you more angry, blah, 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 blah. And it's just some dude trying to sound edgy, in my opinion. And it was like, it was a waste of an opportunity. Plus, if you're gonna make a fan film, as you brought up, Keegan, there's like at least 3 to 5 different stories they pulled from, and they could have just focused on either the Gwen Stacy arc or him having to meet the kid after like making a bad choice or whatever, and having doubts about being Spider-Man. It did not need to be this whole giant conglomeration. It just felt like somebody was trying to capitalize on the hype of Spider-Man since there wasn't anything coming out for a while. So they just mushed everything together and hoped that it worked. So this Green Goblin storyline, it just didn't need to be in there. It was just extra fluff for no reason.
I was just gonna say that goes back to my point from earlier. The whole fight scene with Green Goblin being told, the fight scene with Green Goblin and the death of Gwen Stacy and being told in like flashbacks during the title screen doesn't bring emotion to any of it. It doesn't bring anything of actual weight to it. You can't you can't just say, hey, something happened, now we need this to be exciting. That's not how it works. You have to show it. That's why like, that's why the story in Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire works so well. It is the Green Goblin arc. You get to see these establishing shots of these characters interacting with each other without the alter egos of Spider-Man and Green Goblin actually coming into play. But yeah, it's not. There's no weight behind any of it in this film because of the fact that there wasn't any establishment beforehand. Yeah, if you know the comics, that's great. But if you're going into this without as just somebody watching a film, it doesn't work. And yeah, again, like Grayson said, it's not Green Goblin being an actual psycho. It's him being an edgy guy for the sake of wanting to be an edgy guy.
Do you think he was given the cast dead rats and stuff like that?
I mean, I think he was going above and beyond. I think he was like, stalking outside their house, knocking on windows and stuff, like doing the Dennis method, just like, you're gonna die tonight.
Wasn't this the same actor who was known for frequenting minors? So I don't think he was giving dead rats. I think he was too busy pursuing other things.
Yeah, and we'll get to conspiracies controversies at the end.
Dark on the level. Okay.
Yeah, he's complicated for sure. Not good. So Sam, try not to get demonetized. How did you feel not reading the comics?
I mean, I rather enjoyed his goblin costume. I could have swore the mouth actually moved. I thought I saw it moving a couple times.
It moved, just not a lot.
Just not a lot? Okay.
It's almost like they were just off screen moving the mouth up and down.
No, I saw it like moving when he was talking and like it was on screen, but I could have just been seeing things maybe. Hard to say, don't know. But I thought it was a cool costume. Opposed from like the mechanized one that was in whichever Spider-Man it was in.
The first one.
Yeah, that one. I don't know. I've seen a couple. You showed me a couple.
See, that's why I brought you on to watch this, so you can be like our control.
Right.
And then
I rather enjoyed the costume and like that whole scene. I mean, was interesting. I don't know. He was definitely gaslighting him a lot, making it seem like it was all his fault, getting into his head too much. But that's what villains do, and the people do in general.
But yeah, then everyone makes up. It goes on for far too long. They probably should have cut it after Peter gets hope again because of the kid. He's walking out of the cemetery, closure, blah blah blah. We do get a final like swinging into action shot. Doesn't look as good as the first one, and they do like that classic like pull apart the shirt that I think a lot more people would probably think of Superman, especially having it been on 2 versions of Justice League. Grayson, you looked like you might want to say something there.
that ending scene where he is ripping open his shirt.
Like Superman.
It would, because it was like, it was Flash's going away party, right? And
Yeah.
then like he's about to walk in after Mary Jane says, "Go get him, Tiger," or something like that. It was the way it was cut, the way it was edited. It just felt. It was just so. It felt so undeserved and so dumb because it's like he's sitting there with the kid, walks away, goes and does this, and then now all of a sudden he's gonna. It was just so dumb. It felt like Peter Parker hadn't really learned anything, and he's just being. It felt like it was expected, and he's just. I don't know how to describe my emotion on it other than it was just dumb. That they lead off with him being heroic and leaping into everything after everything that just happened.
We're cutting out one section of the film that comes before the final ending. We're cutting out the flashbacks that weird dream sequence that Peter had.
So yeah, the black and white dream sequence where
the black and white dream sequence where they made only Spider-Man in color.
just
Which
the suit.
I thought that was actually a very good stylized choice. I enjoyed that. But
yeah, I was gonna say that's one of the scenes that kind of got me a little hopeful. Okay, maybe it's gonna turn around, and then immediately, no, we got angry Spider-Man again. But yeah, I did like the choice to only have the suit in red. What if we started the movie out that way, and then we go to the title cards, or right after the title cards, no cemetery?
I think honestly the best way that this movie could have started was by destroying the script and giving people their money back. But no, that dream sequence ends. I think, if I remember correctly, that dream sequence ends where around the same time where Harry has like his own little moment of where he's like, you know what, time to get sober, and then like starts walking away from the bridge, because then it goes up to Spider-Man on top of the same bridge, where again, as I mentioned earlier, I thought he was gonna unalive himself because he's like, I'm gonna go dive as far down as possible before I need to swing.
He probably would have unalived himself at that point. I think just like gravity wise, I don't think he could save himself from the water.
No.
He was too low by the time he. Grayson, what did you think of the dream sequence?
I honestly don't remember the dream sequence. I'm going to be honest with you. At that point, I was pretty much tuned out. I was doing something else while that was on in the background.
I had a feeling, because as soon as I mentioned it, you're like, "What are you talking about?"
Absolutely.
There's 4 arcs in this movie. The Harry, like right prior to Gwen Stacy's death, dream sequence, and then final.
Yeah, I basically, after the kid, like when he zipped into the kid's room via the window and started complaining, I kind of just tuned out and started doing other stuff. And then I tried to pick up on some of the key details, and then I rewatched like some of the last bit, and I'm like, why did I watch this movie again? But it was, yeah, no, I totally skipped that part, 100%.
Well,
what about like the 6-minute scene where he's watching like an iPhone footage, and I was like, is this the rap party? Like, where did they film it at? And it's supposed to be like,
that scene where he's watching and they're all happy.
It was the rap party.
Sure.
Telling
me out of here.
Sure. What were you saying?
What are you gonna say, Nick? Though.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was the only part of the movie where I felt like maybe there was some sort of redemption, but that still no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finally kind of got the words to describe the way that I feel about the last scene where he's ripping open his shirt. It's more undeserved. Not that it was anything else. It was just after 2 hours of a brooding Spider-Man, you're now going to be hopeful in him wanting to be a hero. It felt pretty much like we don't know what else to do, and it didn't feel deserved enough to be like him jumping heroically into the fire once more.
Well, not that he wants to; he has to.
Honestly, I think it would have been more of a fitting end had he just straight up gone to the party and had a good time.
Absolutely.
But
or at
no,
least
he's like,
what
I'm
if
gonna go be a hero after some really inappropriate therapy sessions. Let's go.
but what if too, like, at that scene, because doesn't Mary Jane like look at him?
I felt
Like,
like she sees him and she like doesn't she motion him to come in or something like that, or she sees him and
yeah,
No,
what if he
no,
did something where he kind of like let on he was Spider-Man and that's why he had to leave? Because
no.
then he's like learning from, like, he's making some character growth, right?
It's not. I will say I don't agree with that. I don't think it was obvious enough in the film that they would have seen Peter or they would have done anything to motion him in. I think they were all like, because they were inside a diner and he was outside on the street. I don't think that it was obvious enough, at least not to me, that they would have seen him and motioned him in. I think it was just he looked and then he heard the sirens because, you know, saved by the siren or whatever. But that wasn't obvious enough at all to me.
Would you have liked it better if Mary Jane just flipped him off at that scene?
No, I mean, I think it would have been more fitting for Harry to have flipped him off in that scene because he's like, my dad died. You didn't even come. You didn't even say sorry. Didn't say like, oh, sorry for your loss or anything. I think it would have been more fitting for Harry to flip him off in that scene because there's no reason why any other than the fact that they're longtime friends. There's no reason for them to be excited to see Peter.
Yeah, because he's always being flaky. Like at the beginning, why is Gwen Stacy still going out with him if he's always so late? You know, there was no character growth. Like I thought at the beginning when he's all late and this and that. At the end, he would have at least shown up and been
There's
like,
no there's
you
no
know,
character growth in the entire film, Keegan.
hey, there's a little bit. He goes from ranting at a poor dying child to telling him his
there's a
secret
little
identity.
there's a little bit. There's the kid who was alive and then grew into a kid that was no longer alive.
So you're saying the two best character arcs were Gwen Stacy and the poor kid, both because they died.
Yeah, because they didn't have to be part of that crappy movie.
All right, all right. So before we get to controversies and some like comparisons, Nick, rating, and would you recommend this to people?
Ooh. I want to say no. I want to say no because I don't want to recommend it to people, but at the same time, I kind of want like if I kind of want to go with like I had to see it, so you do too. So like if you're a Spider-Man fan, I would say watch the film once, just so you say you can. But outside of that, I don't recommend this film to really anybody. I think it fits Grayson's background more than it fits an actual theater.
Okay, out of 10, what do you give it?
2, maybe 1.
Hey, 2 out of 10 is better than I gave some of Chad's films. Grayson.
So yeah, as Nick brought out, we have come full circle. This is absolutely how I feel about this movie. Yeah, no, the pros are like I kind of was thinking about it before we started tonight, and I was like, the pros of this movie, costumes are great, and the computer animation for being a fan film, outstanding. The cons, everything else. The acting, the dialogue, the writing, the direction, the story overall, it's just a hot, steaming edgelord garbage fest. It's just so unnecessarily angry, vitriolic, and out of character for Peter Parker to be what he is in this entire movie. Treating Mary Jane the way he does, treating Harry the way he does. It's just honestly, it's just not. It's like to jump ahead to like the rating or how I would recommend it. I would recommend this movie like I would recommend The Room. It is such a out of care. Like if you know the comics and you know the characters and you know everything else like that, you can enjoy it for just what it is. Just a Tommy Wiseau-esque bad acting, bad dialogue, like Just
I recommend The Room more than I would recommend this film.
fair point, but it's just you're sitting there and you're just watching and you're like, it's kind of like just eating something and getting just progressive heartburn. You just feel that build up in the bottom of your throat. You're like, this is not this is not good. It's just hard to sit there and watch just how salty everybody in this movie is, specifically Spider-Man, I guess. So not everybody. But
I was just gonna say, based off of what you just said, if like you know the comics, like I think honestly knowing the character a little bit and knowing the comics a little bit, it's more of a detriment to the film than a boon.
that's
It
fair.
doesn't help the film at all.
I would say it's just watching just listening to some of the dialogue, like, nobody wants to date me, Peter. Do you want to go out later or go to have Flash's party with me? It's just stuff like that. You can sit there and be like, that's hilarious. Nobody talks like that. This is anti-person interaction. This is just word vomit. And
It is.
yeah, like to basically borrow a rating from Jeremy Johns, it's fun if you're drunk. That's about it.
No, going off Grayson's point there, it is exactly that. There are so many, like I mentioned, there's so many dialogue choices that I just did not agree with. Like, I think it's just it's negative. It's negative dialogue. It's not constructive. It's not how anybody would actually want to speak to their friends or to somebody they greatly admire. Like the scene where the mom is trying to pump Spider-Man back up to go talk to the kid and be a positive influence. She tells him that you might think this, but it doesn't matter. That's better, putting it better than she did. She's like, you're sad right now, but it doesn't matter. Like, it does matter that he's sad. You don't want your heroes to be sad. You don't want anybody to be sad, but like saying that is not how you would want to approach that. You'd want to approach it with, I understand that you're feeling sad right now. This kid thinks the world of you, though. That's a better dialogue choice than you're sad right now, but it doesn't matter.
Nick, what you just said was probably the best dialogue that wasn't in the movie I think I've ever heard.
I did
because that's
once
actually character development.
I did once get a scholarship for writing, but to a college I did not attend.
I will say it's definitely well learned, at least from that anyway. Because, I mean, to kind of circle back to, it's the way that I can digest what I'm thinking about this movie overall is, as I said before, there's just multiple stories they're pulling from. And they wanted to hit those points so bad that they just filled it with melodrama just to make you feel like something's happening. But when it comes down to it, they just wanted to put dialogue in there, create a feeling of melodrama, and they just wanted to make those scenes happen that they wanted to happen. Like Gwen Stacy dying, the shocker, everything else, the kid dying. They just wanted to deal with that and then say they made a movie about that story and then just move on. It's a waste of great potential with everything in that movie. Because honestly, like if we were to, let's just say we even focused on the main story of the entire thing, Gwen Stacy's death. If the movie would have started out with not the shocker fight, but them just having Peter show up late, everybody knows why, he's Spider-Man. That's just what happens. Cutting to them actually having somewhat of a relationship, the Goblin starts developing as a main villain. Even though they may not have had the budget for it, there is a way where you can work around it for the most part. But just making the story of him and Gwen being together, and then just make the Goblin basically be a villain in the background, and then have her death be middle to 2/3 of the way through the movie, and then him confronting the Goblin. Or even if you just wanted to start the thing off with her dying and them in a battle about it, to then him dealing with this, that's a way better way to deal with it than just 5 different stories you're trying to jump around just to say you made a movie about it.
I mean, what was the biggest complaint from Spider-Man 3 back in the day? Is that there was too much happening in the film. That's exactly the case with this. There was too much happening in the film. I understand that they wanted to show off these other great Spider-Man moments, like we mentioned earlier, this Spider-Man comic where he talks to the kid who is dying is a very iconic moment, and it's been redone in different ways. And it's an iconic comic, but throwing it in the way they did just didn't do any justice to it all.
And to that point too, it's like they, even though it's supposed to be a movie about Peter, I feel like it was a movie about Peter, Harry, Mary Jane, and Flash, with Peter just complaining the entire time. It's not really about Peter. It's just Peter. I'm sad because Gwen's dead. Am I supposed to be Spider-Man? I'm gonna treat everybody like crap because I'm sad. And it's like, dude, I just don't. Nobody cares. The amount of focus being spread out as much as it was just. It wasn't. It was disappointing to say the very least.
Well, and like you mentioned earlier with the whole like Superman-esque, which I thought even when Tobey Maguire did that in the first film, I was like, that's a Superman ripoff. Don't do that. But
Yeah.
even then, it was unearned because there's no real redemption for this character in the film. He's complaining the entire time, being rude, being a jerk, and there's not like him. Hey, I'm really sorry for what happened. There's not a real moment of that happening in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, he does look at Harry and say, "Hey, sorry your dad died."
Hey, that's growth.
Hey, Harry, sorry your dumb dad died when I killed him.
Hey,
Put
can you
scars
tell
on
me?
his body.
Complete.
Can you tell me which establishing shots that was between?
I think it had to have been at least one of the World Trade Center ones. I know there was an Empire State Building one sprinkled in there somewhere. Well, and then I really want to go to New York again because I haven't really gone too far north on past Central Park. I've gone everywhere else in New York, but I want to find where they shot those houses at because it didn't feel like New York to me, like Gwen's house.
Yeah, I feel like there was definitely something on the northern end, meeting the Great White North neighbors. Felt like a little bit
I
Canadian
was gonna
up
say
there.
it could have been in Queens because if you're going based off the comics, that is where like in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, that's where Peter and Aunt May lived, was in Queens, and even in the Insomniac games.
Yeah. But
And
I
in the
I have one other
MCU.
thing. I got one other thing I need to get off.
Are
my
you saying
chest.
something?
You're
on
on
mute.
mute, Sam.
I mean, I was referencing a music, but no, not really. I was singing an Insomniac song that I know.
Hey, give us a rating and do you recommend it, Sam?
Rating? I
Go full
definitely
Last
wanted
Jedi on me, Sam.
full Last Jedi. I mean, I definitely wanted to give you a troll rating. It would be like 10 out of 10. But I'm not going to do that. I would probably say, yeah, probably 2. 2 out of 10. And
My rating is going to be a hot take then compared to.
no, yours is
Keegan,
going to be like a 0. I already know.
I feel like Keegan's about to troll us right now. And my rating too, I don't think I gave it was like 1.5 or a 2 out of 10.
It's all on the same line. I mean, I would recommend it. I mean, you never know with fan made arcs because, like Nick has said in the beginning, I watched a bunch of the Dragon Ball like fan arts, and there were some that were like actually pretty good, and there were some that were like, meh, whatever, and like you never really know. And even though we all talk about this, it's very opinion based. Like some people may watch this and kind of enjoy it, and there's some people that will absolutely hate it. Like you never know until you experience it yourself, and that's why I always just watch these things and just see what they're like, because
All
you
right.
never know.
Should I be hot? Should I give a hot take right now?
Yeah,
Hot
Keegan,
and
you've
heavy,
been
Keegan.
talking the
real quick,
back.
before you do, does
anticipating it the
anybody
whole
know?
time.
Does anybody know how many likes this movie actually has?
On Internet Movie Database, I think right now it is sitting at a hot 3.3 out of 10.
Okay, if your rating is anything above that, I am going to drop kick you at your cubicle tomorrow.
So, I think this movie is better than Citizen Kane. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Grace knows. Grace. Well, I guess Nick also knows now too.
I mean, it's been a
also
while, Keegan. Things could have changed.
So after subjecting myself, like I said, to 6 Chad Kalick films that I all rated 1 to 2, I feel like I'd watch this before I watched any of those films. So personally, I would probably give it a 3, maybe a 4.
That's not.
And
That's
that
not.
was more because Nick was going to kick me tomorrow, and I was looking forward to it, so I had to give it the 4.
That's not a fair comparison though, because you're comparing it to really bad movies versus comparing it to really good films.
And those
No,
are more
no.
kind of
Well, I mean-
documentaries than actual movies.
Yeah, but they're with better budgets. They're
Here's
it's just,
Keegan, I'll stand by you. Your rating is fair. I'll give you that. Even though I obviously disagree with it, I understand it. But I had somewhere I was going with that. What was I going to do with that? I honestly thought you were going to be given a hotter take, like, a 7 or 8 out of 10. You made it sound like you were coming in like, guess what, boys?
Coming
It's
in
a
hot.
6.5. Blah, 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 blah.
this
So
is
it's
the
not really a
best
hot take,
Spider-Man
Keegan. It's like a
ever.
lukewarm.
You should be writing for
I
Marvel.
was-
Oh, my God.
I was a little worried about that too because he was talking earlier at work today about how much he did not like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I was like, dude,
What?
I will take. I told him like there was an interview with Andrew Garfield talking about like when the first film came out, talking about their choice to make Peter Parker what he was in that film. Like they talked about how back in the '60s he was a nerdy person and he was outcast because he was so smart and all that stuff, and that was kind of just the trend back in the day. But that's not the same as it is now. Like not everyone bullies people who are smart now. Sometimes the smarter kids or like nerdy kids are more in mainstream, but like what he was, like the loner hipster kind of skater dude. That's not always mainstream and not always genuinely accepted as being smart and nerdy in the old sense of it.
Yeah, no, see, looking at like the Chad Kalick films, obviously it's gonna be better. But also having recently seen Godzilla -1, it's nowhere near the character development that movie had. Like you could take Godzilla out of that film and it's a good character driven story. So obviously compared to that, not a good movie. But just compared to some of the other movies we've subjected ourselves to on the channel, it's better.
Fair. I mean, look at Jeremy Corbell.
Whatever you guys do, don't get suckered into watching any Chad Kalick films. Like if someone says, "Hey, I'll pay you $12 to watch this,"
$12. Yeah, right.
you
That's
exactly
that's
exactly
Price a little
take
high.
it from Sam.
That's below
I
minimum
mean,
wage. Not happening.
we dove into it off of someone requesting us like the second movie, and then we found out that there was more, and we willingly watched all 6 of them. So
And then I regretted it immediately. So let's get into controversy, right? Nick, do you want to discuss the controversy? Because I feel like you know about it a little bit better than any of us.
I see. I don't really know a lot about it. I know the only thing I know, the only 2 things I've heard really are that the actor who played Spider-Man, Warden Wayne, has repeatedly in the past used racial slurs, which is not okay. You can't do that. And then I heard that the actor for the Green Goblin is a pedophile. This is all what I have heard. I don't have any hard evidence, but
But this is all allegedly, right? But I do
Yeah.
think allegedly there is actual screenshots you can probably search for the actor playing Spider-Man, the director, I forget his name, but whoever made the movie and wrote it, also dropping, all those words. And then yeah, the guy that played the Green Goblin was a coach, I guess, grooming a student. And the Spider-Man people knew this and they didn't fire him. So those are the controversies. So that's why we
Oh.
saved it to the end, because we wanted to be a little bit unbiased. And you can see that our ratings were not based on any of that. It's just based on what we saw. Still not a good movie.
I'm gonna change my rating from a 2 to a 1 because of those now. Don't support these people.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for quality Spider-Man content, this is definitely not it. Especially because just seeing like what they have written and stuff that they've shared and said in private, you're like, good lord, because some of it it's all just it's bad. I didn't know about the Green Goblin stuff. I just knew about Peter Parker and the director being, cool with using provocative language casually, and it's just, yeah, it's.
Well, and then allegedly they trashed the two actresses that played Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane.
Didn't they also trash like some of the people that worked on the visual effects?
Yeah, which is the visual effects they did really good. Obviously, that has nothing to do with the people we're talking about.
No, yeah, I watched a video, like a little 10-minute video of the visual effects team that made the opening swinging scene, and I think also the scene where he jumps off the bridge. They were very passionate about their work. I mean, they might not have had the same tools that like Hollywood would have, but they did well with what they had, for sure.
Yeah, and there's some good actors in here. They just don't have good dialogue or directing or lighting. None of the people I mentioned. I don't think the guy playing Spider-Man did very good. The Green Goblin, I felt, was trying to be the Joker and not doing a very good job at it. And obviously, you shouldn't be doing that stuff, guys. All that very, very bad. Don't do it. I don't think we should have to tell you guys.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here. You shouldn't have heard it here first.
First. It's 2023. Please don't let this be the first time you hear this stuff.
Don't say the N-word and don't touch kids, everybody.
Yeah, like come on. And the fact and again, allegedly we don't know everything as far as timelines go, but we've seen instances like with a Kevin Spacey where directors have plucked him out of the movie and replaced him completely. I've not seen that movie, but I know they spent like an outrageous amount of money to reshoot all of his scenes. So,
Keegan, since we're on the subject of tea and controversy here, I just happened to do some Googling just to see what I could find. I found a list of alleged, allegations, alleged allegations, using the same word twice. You know how we do. And would you like me to go through some of them that we haven't mentioned yet?
yes.
Sure.
And before we go, just remember this is allegedly.
Very big A in that allegedly. But one of the worst and most confining things that I can find is that allegedly, without, I don't know if there are screenshots out there of this or not, but I would say it's a number 2 to the first major offense, the racism stuff. But he claimed, let me see where I can find it here. He claimed several times that he is the only person to truly understand Spider-Man. With this being what he wrote, he really surely does. Yeah, but just obviously, as you can tell, he sure knows how to write Peter Parker and Spider-Man, because he is right on. Anyway, let me see what else we got here. And then apparently he also made this movie out of pure spite after being fed up with Spider-Man films and how they were being written. He wanted to make this because he wanted to show Hollywood how you're supposed to really write Spider-Man. So apparently making the antithesis of Peter Parker and the character of Spider-Man. It's how you write Spider-Man, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, it just gets worse and worse. Apparently, he also didn't pay people that did some of the After Effects work and framework for the intros and credits, including the combat stuff. And yeah, it's pretty bad. That's pretty much all I got right now, but I'll see if I can find anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad things going on. Like I said, they were trashing. They came out trashed the two actresses and said what was in the film is what they could salvage.
Okay, got one more. The VFX company that was working with them to do the computer graphics decided to leave out of not wanting to be associated with the director and the actor.
You should never, unless you are the one person that wrote the character, never say that you're the only person that understands that character.
Hey, I didn't say I didn't like Andrew Garfield in a whole. I'm just not a fan of him and what is her name?
I'm a
Emma
stone.
Yeah. Yeah,
Emilio Estevez.
their unscripted interactions is very what did I say this morning? The guy from Transformers.
Oh, it
Michael
was me,
Bay.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
For Shia
Yeah,
LaBeouf.
where he's just stuttering all the time too. And I'm like, you guys are dating. Is this how you really talk in real life? Like, come on. The suit
I
in
mean,
that looks really
so
good.
hang on, what film are you basing that off of? Because if you're basing it off of the first Amazing Spider-Man, it makes sense why he's stuttering there because he's nervous to talk to the girl he really likes or the girl he really admires. If you're basing it off the second film, I don't remember that one. I don't remember seeing any stuttering in that film.
He gets better as it goes on, but he stutters a lot. I don't hate him. I thought he was probably the best part of No Way Home, Spider-Man wise.
Are you talking
I-
about Andrew Garfield?
Yes, Andrew Garfield.
I definitely enjoyed Andrew Garfield's redemption in No Way Home. That one hit me emotionally when I saw the film in theaters.
And I did enjoy them referencing Tobey Maguire's back injury in that movie.
Yeah, he has a weird middle back thing. I like that.
Yeah. Because that was the rumor why he was going to drop out as Spider-Man. Grayson, you finding anything else that we should know?
No, just pretty much everybody's review is pretty much similar to mine and Nick's and everybody else's here. It's Spider-Man is sad, and so is everybody else, and that's the movie with hallmark the drama dialogue.
So, Grayson, we were trying to tell one of our coworkers today. Do you think this is worse than The Last Jedi?
On an emotional and lore-based judgment, it's pretty on par, if not worse than, because it feels pretty much the same. It's coming from somebody who feels they know the lore better than other people and decided to make this so much worse because they just wanted to make somebody be a douche. And for some reason, they see Spider-Man as being a douchebag, and I don't get it. But it's apparently the only person that knows how to write Spider-Man. So I was going to ring back. Let me get back to The Last Jedi comparison. It's very it hits just as hard, dude. Because I'm like, it's the same kind of thing with like for example the shirt ripping scene in that movie or in Spider-Man Lotus. It feels just as unearned, if not worse than just the how epic The Last Jedi tries to feel, especially in its conclusion. It's unearned. It's all just somebody trying to make you think they know better than you, and it's so infuriating. I think that's the main reason I don't like this movie as much as everybody else also doesn't. They try to tell you what Spider-Man is when you know better, just like how The Last Jedi did. They try to tell you. Rian Johnson tried to communicate, I know Star Wars better than you. Deal with it. And everybody just sat there going, do you? Do you really?
So what you're saying is we should have a movie face-off: Last Jedi versus Spider-Man Lotus.
I think
don't have that much.
Listen, I think Last Jedi wins. No, you don't need a face-off. Okay.
I don't have that much willpower, dude.
Well, I
There's only
get
so much
that Keegan
cancer and
is going to
cringe
have
you
us
can
do
take.
that.
Grayson, I thought we were going to do our deep dive. Last Jedi versus Citizen Kane.
You don't pay me enough.
Wait, you're getting paid?
In exposure.
Grayson,
No, but I would say Last Jedi is definitely worse, but it just, I'm being hyperbolic, obviously, but this just hits so hard because it's just so bad.
I don't think Last Jedi is worse. I think this is worse than Last Jedi. There's only one reason why I say that, and that's the the one scene in Last Jedi, where, just because of how visually stunning it is, where the one character does the jump to hyperspace through the Imperial starship or whatever. I thought that alone was a decent cinematic moment.
So that's better than the Peter Parker yelling at Mary Jane in a cemetery.
Yes, I would stare at that for two. I would rather stare at that for 2 hours than this dumpster fire of a movie.
Nick, I hear your argument, but I raise you. This isn't canon. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is canon. But no, I can see. I understand your point, especially. Honestly, I will waffle on this no matter what because it's both. They're both devastatingly hard hitting in just their lack of care and understanding of the material. It's tragic.
So, Nick, how does this compare to Japanese Spider-Man?
I can't answer that. I've never watched any of the Japanese Spider-Man. I'll let you know when I do watch it though, and then I'll come back. Be like, listen, edit this in, and I'll send you a little TikTok. Like it's so much better.
Sam, how does this compare to anything you've ever watched in your life?
How does this compare to anything I've watched?
Okay, we'll narrow it down. Godzilla -1, how does it compare?
I mean, I personally wouldn't even compare those two because it's.
But I'm personally having you compare them.
All right, Sam.
So
This-
-1, obviously.
Spider-Man Lotus or The Room with Tommy Wiseau.
I don't think I've seen The Room.
You've never seen The Room?
Sam, do you know who has The Room? We can watch it Friday.
No, we gotta finish our evidence.
Oh, and what about Birdemic? Is this better than Birdemic?
Birdemic? The Birdman?
No.
What about Sharks of Corn?
I haven't watched that. That's this guy. That's Keegan only.
What's the other worst film you've ever watched? What is the film you least enjoyed outside of this one?
Film wise?
And it can't be Jeremy Corbell because I just used up his name. We're only allotted 5.
Yeah, but his aren't really films, they're documentaries. I wouldn't consider them like films. They would be more documentaries, which are kind of films, but like not in the same way. God, what's the last like really bad one that I've watched?
Titanic 2.
I have not even seen that. I just learned that there was a Titanic 2 from you today. So like no. I don't even know what last terrible film I've watched. I was gonna say Jaws 3, but like that's just because it's like super old and the shark is janky. That one's more funnier.
That's not the one where Jaws roars, right? I think that's Jaws 4.
Yeah, with
No,
cocaine.
Jaws 3 is the one where it's just like slowly going to the glass and then just like pokes it and then it shatters.
And Jaws 3 is with Dennis Quaid. I think one of his breakout roles.
And how someone broke out of that role, I don't know.
He just got to play Doc Holliday in Wild Heart.
I don't know. That's kind of a hard question for me because like I'm not a super big like movie buff. Like I don't go out of my way to watch movies or TV shows. Like if I compare it to something else I know, yeah, no, I wouldn't even compare that because I would enjoy the like other things more than that movie.
I think we got an answer, boys.
But like compared to like other
I wouldn't
movies,
compare to that because I'd rather enjoy everything else.
well, yeah, because I'm more of a gamer, and so like I would rather play video games than watch that movie.
All right, so Sam, like the worst video game you've played, like we're talking
Jurassic Park, that one where we could only button mash.
Button mash?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
the
talking
Telltale
like
game.
worst of the worst here. We're talking like, you know,
I like that one. Worst of the worst. I
What do you
would
think of the
I would
worst?
obviously do the video games more just because I'm more of a gamer, so it's not like really a fair comparison.
Oh, I got one.
And as far as terrible films,
Billy
wait.
the Kid versus Dracula for you, Sam.
Oh yeah, Billy the Kid versus Dracula. I would watch more. I thought that one was I thought that one was comical. But that is a good terrible movie. I kind of forgot about that one, honestly. But no, I would watch that one more than like this Spider-Man. But then again, I'm also not big on like superhero movies unless it's Dragon Ball, who's the only greatest superhero out there.
Oh, Sam,
No?
have you ever seen Dragon Ball Evolution?
Yes.
What would you rather watch, that or this?
Neither.
Between those two, I'm picking Dragon Ball Evolution.
Okay, what about Velma or this?
I would rather drink a bottle
Never
of
watched
cider.
Velma and would not.
What'd you say,
I would
Grayson?
I would rather bottoms up a whole thing of cyanide than have to make that choice.
Right?
Like if it was gun to my head, Clockwork Orange style, eyes wide open, I would just find a way to end it. Because good lord, they're just no. The option, like I would just do Spider-Man Lotus because it's shorter instead of having to sit through an entire season of Velma. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's kind of fair. I would probably do Evolution more. Even though it pains me to say that because I want.
I like the one thing I think is funny about Evolution is like I'm a fan of Cinema Sins on YouTube. It is the one movie where he's done the everything wrong with, and then actually looked into the lore afterwards and just started taking off more and more points as he was reading about the lore of Dragon Ball.
We're not talking about that movie.
See, for me, if I had to choose between my least favorite movies of all time or this one, I'd have to pick Spider-Man Lotus. Because Monster by Asylum should not be available for anybody to watch. The last
How do you watch that film? I'll go and watch it before the next time we have a discussion like this.
I'll find a way. It's made by Asylum, who makes really cheap movies anyways. It's a cheap ripoff of Cloverfield. And a lot of the movie, their idea of when the camera stops working and you can't see, you can still hear when the camera's turned off. So there's a lot of blackness with audio.
So hang on, do they actually turn the camera off?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then Titanic 2 would be right below it. It's also one of the worst movies ever made. So
as I mentioned earlier, we do
rather
not
watch
need
these movies
sequels.
or
No, I watched Spider-Man Lotus over those two.
As I mentioned earlier, we do not need sequels to historical events.
Are you saying we don't need Gettysburg 2?
No. I am saying that we do not.
Now, if you're asking me, would I watch the 1997 Titanic over Spider-Man Lotus? The answer is a big fat yes. I know Sam thought I was going to go somewhere else, but
You could watch a 3-hour Titanic movie and it would feel shorter than Spider-Man Lotus.
any final thoughts? I think there could be a somewhat watchable film in there if they actually had someone edit it. And I don't know if at the end of the day, because this wasn't really finished, if there would have been editing to cut some of that out, kind of like how Zack Snyder gave us a 4-hour Justice League. Granted, much more watchable than this, but he did kind of just keep everything in that film, and I could have done it without, the Swedish Nordic ladies singing about Aquaman.
Well, then how would you get the idea of Aquaman, Keegan?
I have no idea. When I think of when I watch Game of Thrones now, I just hear those ladies every time Jason Momoa comes on the screen. I pull up that scene.
Wait, do you get that or do you get the shrieking singing in Dune?
All better movies than Spider-Man Lotus.
Very true. Very, very, very true.
So, Nick, final thoughts on this movie?
I outside of this, I don't think I will ever revisit that movie again.
Not even for
I don't know
a
about
special
that.
birthday. Like, what if
Keegan's
it was
gonna
my
send you
special
email
birthday?
gifts of it, like for like months on end. So be
No.
ready to relive it.
I did send him emails while he was out of the office about it every day.
Oh my god, you should have seen those emails. Day 4, still no Nick in sight. Spider-Man Lotus haunts my thoughts. And I'm like, and then he'll like,
See, I got that too.
He'd space it, so it was like day 4. And then he'd be like, I got this order entered, by the way. Like,
He kind of did that with me, but it was with Scrappy Doo, opposed from Lotus. Because in our review, there's this plastic bag that he swears looks like Scrappy Doo. None of the other group sees it, but like he's just like Scrappy Doo, and like made a comparison of like Scrappy Doo in the plastic bag, and he's like, "Don't you see it?" I'm like, "No."
I made that meme where Spider-Man's like, I see his
God.
face everywhere, and then it's just Scrappy Doo on the wall.
That is a Keeganism if I ever heard it.
Yeah.
It might not have helped that we had like 12 hours of Scrappy Doo in our lives before watching that film.
Yeah.
I would need to hear more about this after, but anyway.
Grayson, do we do your final thoughts?
No, just
All right. What about you?
final thoughts on this movie is if you're really dying to see how bad this movie is, definitely check it out. But if you don't want to see a emo, edgy, angry Peter Parker who was written by a guy who claims how he knows how to write Spider-Man, and it comes out like this, don't see it.
And some might say you can see the emo, edgy Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3. Sam?
I've experienced it. Will probably not watch it again. Kind of wish they like went with the Metalocalypse approach for the like dream scene, and just like had Gwen's eyes start to just like bleed and like mouth decay and have like maggots fly on there like they do in Metalocalypse. That would have probably made it more intense and edgy and what they were going with. But other than that, yeah,
Keegan,
I watched it.
Keegan, as I mentioned to you, this was the only 2-hour-long film where I felt like it was a chore to finish.
I mean, if you ever want a 2-hour film that also feels like a chore, American Ghost Hunter is out there free on Tubi.
Wait, why are you giving free promo, Keegan?
Because I talked bad about it for 2 hours. I do.
He hates this guy, but he still promotes his movies.
This guy sucks. So check out his movies.
No other. He's like, worst films out there, but check this one out. No, that one didn't seem really hurt my head.
Yeah. They film it black and white, and then the camera's like going like this at the ground for like a good 5-6 minutes to set up the movie. And then it's all clearly fake. But that film does have the best scene put to film where he interviews a 2x4. But it is a chore. We got through like 20 minutes of it. I was like, Sam, there's another hour of this film.
Mhm.
I don't know. I might have to leave.
Yeah, that one was pretty brutal.
Yeah. My final thoughts on this film. Is it the worst thing I've ever seen? No. Is it a good Spider-Man movie? No. So, should you go watch it? I mean, I think all of us always kind of have that intrigue when you hear something's very bad to go watch it, because you just, I don't know. You know, curiosity killed the cat. Maybe you shouldn't go watch it because you'll never see Spider-Man the same way. This could taint people's views of Spider-Man, I think. But as far as CGI goes, the visual effects team did really good. There are some decent actors, just terrible writing, terrible controversies. But that's our deep dive. So thank you guys for joining us.
So I heard a really good saying, like when I was in high school and I was taking writing classes. It was, writing is a litmus test of where a person is mentally.
Oh, you muted yourself. Warden Wayne came and got you for a second.
They try to keep me silenced out here. But where did it end? Was it that writing is a litmus test?
Yeah.
So yeah, writing is a litmus test of where a person is mentally, emotionally, and personally. And with the way that this was written, it's like the dude that wrote this was just mad. I don't know at what, I don't know at who, but he just used Peter Parker as just basically a totem to just say angry things. And it's like, for what? Because this isn't, if you're claiming to know Peter Parker, absolutely better than the original writers or anybody else that's been able to recapture that. And this is what you have to offer, which is nothing like the character. And it's just a bunch of just anger and hatred. It's disappointing. Just, it's sad. I don't even want to say sad. It's just something more than disappointing, but I don't have the words for it.
Well, it is disappointing. It's an ultimate letdown because what you're saying, yeah, writing is a litmus test for where the person's at, as you said, but it's also when you're writing characters, you have to think about what your character would do in a situation. And it's hard to take a character that's already so well established like Peter Parker and Spider-Man and make them new and exciting. I like what the MCU has done with the character because it's put him into the context of the MCU.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Like, honestly, the people that call Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. or Iron Lad, it's like I don't agree with that. I don't see how there was another way to really get him into this universe without that kind of being how it's done. But to your point too, it's like I think with Peter Parker being established as it is, the part where I still like feel I don't want to say it's like a betrayal, but it is kind of like that because it's like Nick, you know him, Keegan, you know him, everybody that's been around the comics and has at least had an experience and upbringing or any sort of understanding of the character, they can look at this and say, this may be like, I don't want to quote like any of the, like, I quote Mark Hamill when he talked about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. This is Jake Skywalker. This isn't Luke Skywalker. This is Paul Parker, not Peter Parker. This is just some dude who happens to look and have the same powers as Spider-Man, but it's not Peter Parker and it's not Spider-Man.
Agreed.
Yeah, yeah, it's a jumbled mess. So, if you worked on this film, as a visual effects or maybe one of the actresses we talked about or any of the other actors that were not part of the controversy, right? If you want to come on, talk about it, just talk about your experiences, how it was working, your feelings of what you thought was going to be made and what got made. Let us know. We're more than happy to talk with you. More than happy to talk with anybody most of the time. So let us know. And next time we do a Culz Reviews deep dive, we'll make it a fun one. I mean, we don't want to disappoint our guests Nick and Grayson too much when they come on. Our other guests got to watch, Young Guns and National Treasure, and all these other movies, and we had to watch Spider-Man. I keep wanting to call it Locust, but it's a Lotus. I don't
I
know
mean,
why.
I think the only reason why you invited me on is because you knew I was a Spider-Man fan. You're like, this is an awful film. Let's put him through this.
I wouldn't put it past Keegan to do something like that, but uh, but I was gonna say, sorry, I'm like coming over a cold right now, so I'm like in that post-loopy brain of medicine and coming back on the other side. But
Oh, I get it. I had like an out of body experience earlier. Like I just did not feel right because I had just came back from Florida, and I guess the jet lag took a couple days to hit me because I got to work and I wasn't tired, but I was like, I shouldn't be here.
uh, yeah, Keegan, I'm sorry if my thoughts did not come out super coherently. I kind of did the best I could with the what, but I think it came out pretty good. But I was gonna say, it's just, yeah, I will say I had a good time ripping on. I will say I'm not a professional hater, but when it's something like this where it's just somebody comes off so self-righteously as the director did and the director, writer, producer did, I absolutely love talking crap about it because this is just some sort of passion project where they were guided by their own hubris and they are falling so hard and they deserve it because this is a travesty to the character.
Yeah, I'd hate to be somebody that didn't know this was a fan film saw a 2-hour movie on YouTube and watched it because at first it seems like it could be something legitimate and then just be scarred for life on Spider.
Be scarred for life.
I mean, to your point, Keegan, let's even say like some younger fans have like just started looking into Peter Parker and started seeing some of this stuff. This isn't Peter Parker, but if they get attracted to it, they start end up believing Peter Parker is this, and then it could cause, not that it will, obviously, but just stuff like this can cause people to change a character into something that it's not. And that should, like, you should test the limits with a character. This is not how you do it. This is not at all how you do it. You still have to know who they are, but this isn't Peter Parker.
Grayson, did you see that fan film for Power Rangers?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, so maybe we should talk about that because I want to see your guys's. It's only 14
We're gonna
minutes.
bring
It's
you on
only
for a good film.
Is it on YouTube as well?
yes, it's free. I'll send you guys the link.
I'll do a deep dive on that one too.
Yeah, it's only 14 minutes, so it's not as painful. No, we will bring him back for a good movie because we're moving close to our 100th review, and I want to make a super show with a bunch of our guests. You know, we've had Jarrell Vosborg, Michael Anthony Giudicissi, we've had Nick Miller, we've had Shane, you know, some of the other cool guys. So we'll bring everyone back and actually watch a super good film. We'll have a debate and see what we pick, but something good. Can it get worse than this? I think so, but not too much worse than this. But yeah, Nick, do you have any ideas? What would you film that you think, or what would you like to deep dive? That's good.
What would I film? So many other things. What do I think would be a good deep dive?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Honestly, my thought just now was the prequel to the Hunger Games because that's relevant right now. But I'm not a super big fan of the Hunger Games, so I don't know if that would be a good one for me. That just was the first thought. I have no idea though.
We'll have to bring on some people. Be like, we'll just put an ad out. Do you know about Hunger Games? If so, please join us. Because I've seen a couple of the Hunger Games. I think I've seen up to the part 1, but that was about it.
I
not read any of the books.
I saw all of them, but it was also something that was more of my ex-wife's like than mine. So,
Grayson, what about you? I mean, I know at one point you said Uncut Gems. Are you still feeling that way?
Uncut Gems is a good one. I would definitely be willing to go and do like a deeper-ish cut of that, but because there's a lot of cool stuff to like learn and do research on and definitely look into, especially with everything going on. But I would say something that I would really want to like do more of like a deep review and kind of like a look at and kind of, I don't know, like a production examination. That would probably be something like, I don't know, maybe Killers of the Flower Moon, or even something that's like, what's the movie I'm thinking of?
We have an upcoming one planned for Django Unchained with an author that wrote about Django. So if you're interested.
Yes, I am.
I have not watched that film all the way through, but
I will say the ending is pretty wild. No, yeah, if there is a spot for me, I would love to be a part of that, but I understand that I'm not in the foundation, so I totally understand either way. But
come on as a guest.
Yeah, you're always welcome, Grayson.
Believe me, I would love to do that. That'd be amazing.
Remember that day we spent 14 hours in a car together? You're more than welcome anytime after that.
Yeah, we've seen some horrors at a retail grocery store together. I think we're pretty much bonded at this point. Uncut Gems right now, and then either Killers of the Flower Moon, or I mean, if we're doing like a fun one, maybe even like something corny and kind of fun, so we could even do like The Room or something.
I'd be down to do The Room.
oh hi, Mark.
I did not hit her. I did not.
It's bullshit. Oh, hi, Mark.
If
How's your
pass me a
sex life?
I love how they're always just throwing a football too.
I love how Alex at work reminded me about the "How's your sex life" line, because it's like, oh yeah, it comes out of nowhere. Like we're having lunch in public. He's like, "How's your sex life?" And it's like, that's not. I wouldn't ask that of my best friend. Be like, don't do that.
Or I
We
think.
We could do that, and then the sequel, Best Friends.
I would totally be down for that. I think another fun one that we could do, or at least to talk about, would be Tropic Thunder, or what's the movie that James Franco made about the making of The Room?
The
Was it,
disaster artist.
Yes, yes. I
We
would.
we could do that. We can do the disaster artist and The Room as like comparison. That'd be fun.
Double feature. Yeah.
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 Or Sam, are there any video games you'd want to do a deep dive in on?
I could do that too. That'd be sick.
I mean, there's many.
We've teased a lot of video games, and we've only done like 2.
I think we've only done 1. Oh no, we did do 2. It's Phasmophobia and Ark.
And Paranormal, so 3.
Paranormal.
I've wanted to do like Red Dead.
Oh, dude, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, we should do the Spider-Man ones now too.
I have many opinions about Spider-Man 2. Many, many opinions about Spider-Man 2. If you want me to list them off, I can go off that right now, but I would definitely.
Nah. Let's save it for the deep dive.
Yeah, let's. If that's on the roster, I'm definitely willing to get into some emotions on that for sure.
All right, so you heard it here first. We got a whole list of topics, like everyone just listed off. We might even do that Power Ranger fan film. It's only 14 minutes. We'll probably talk about it for 2 hours, because why not? Once again, we want to say thank you to both Nick and Grayson for joining us tonight to review Spider-Man Lotus. And we promise both of you guys that next time you're on, we'll do a better movie. But we do appreciate your guys' input for the episode. But until next time, if you guys want more Culz reviews and Culz reviews deep dives, click that link to your left. For more about what we're doing here at Culz Paranormal, including an awesome interview with rock and roll historian Susan Massino, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know if you watch Spider-Man Lotus, what are your thoughts on the film?